breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. As joining me in segment number 2 is Dylan Rockford, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We're going to be chatting with him about the struggles of the New York Mets, the wide open landscape that we've got in the playoff picture, maybe a few teams that he's feeling bullish/bearish on, and so much more in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM. Name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever that 100% of gambling transactions do get approved. And when you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G, because that's going to get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Friday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Red Sox are actually tied with the Tigers for the top road over rate in baseball. 35 overs, 27 unders, and a push. And well, that was not the case for them on Friday, but they did get the job done by a count of 1-0. As for Brian Bayo, he was tremendous in this one. 7 scoreless innings. Garrett Woodlock, Aroldis Chapman, both led a scoreless inning. Where the Red Sox, they've really struggled with men in scoring position. They won 1 of 11 here, but it was good enough to get the job done. Max Fried had given up 3+ runs at each out of his previous 7 outings. He goes 6 scoreless here. Mark Leiter Jr. gives up a run in an inning. Devin Williams, David Bednar, they both give you a scoreless inning. Pitch good enough to win, but for the New York Yankees, 3 hits. They didn't have a single opportunity with men in scoring position, and thus the Red Sox, they do get the job done. So do the Washington Nationals, 5-4 over the Philadelphia Phillies. A big-time rarity in this one. Yohan Duran was unable to close out a game, as for the Washington Nationals, Cade Cavalli gives up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, including a home run to one Mr. Bryson Stott, 9th home run season. Then JT Realmuto, he does get home run number 10 of the season. That comes off of Shinsuke Ogasawara. He gives up that solo run over the course of 2/3 of an inning of work. Jackson Rutledge and out of the bullpen scoreless, and then PJ Poulin, 2 scoreless innings for the Washington Nationals. Riley Adams was able to go deep off of Taijuan Walker. 8th home run season for Walker, gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings. Tanner Banks, Jose Alvarado, Matt Strom, all on the scoreless inning, and JT Realmuto did have an error that hurt the case of Yohan Duran, but he gives up 2 runs with the lead in the 9th inning, one of which was earned, and the team falls by a count of 5-4. The Colorado Rockies had won, I believe, 5 out of their last 8 games entering into this one. They looked like the same old Rockies on Friday, though. 9-0, they lose to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Antonio Senzatella, the human pinata, gives up 5 runs over the course of 4 innings. From there, Anthony Molina gives up 3 runs in 1 1/3 innings, including a pair of bombs, as he was taken deep by Tommy Pham. Pham gets a 7th home run season. Then you had Mr. Spencer Horwitz get his 6th home run season. Alexander Canario off of Lucas Gilbreth. He was able to get his 4th home run season. Gilbreth gives up that home run in his inning of work on El Shavili. 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And for the Colorado Rockies, absolutely nothing doing at the plate. Braxton Ashcraft, 5 scoreless innings. Bubba Chandler in his MLB debut, 4 scoreless innings in a piggyback effort. So very nicely done there, and very nicely done by the Detroit Tigers. They get the job done over the Kansas City Royals, this by a count of 7-5. Ryan Berger, relatively solid start here. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings. Does allow a home run to Zach McKinstry, 11th home run season. Then for Riley Green, he goes deep off of Anhel Zerpa, his 30th home run season. Zerpa gives up that home run. He did not get a single out. He allowed 3 hits along the way. Not great. John Schreiber gives up nothing in his third of an inning, but Bailey Falter, who was a starter, well, he faltered in this one. 4 runs allowed in 2 innings. Maybe they should be looking at a different role for him, as Vinny Pasquantino was able to go deep off of Will Vest in the 9th inning for his 27th home run season. Casey Mize gives up 3 runs in 5 2/3 innings. From there, Kyle Finnegan, 2 scoreless innings. Drew Summers in his MLB debut, he was able to get an out of the bullpen scoreless, so he did have a pair of walks. Wasn't necessarily great, but did just enough to be able to get the job done. And then for Vest, he does give up that home run, 2 runs in total over the course of an inning, but that was enough to be able to get the win. the Blue Jays have been your top over team in all baseball. 70 overs, 53 unders, and 6 pushes. No over in this one as Shane Bieber made us all believers. There's no need to say sorry when you have an outing like this. 5-2 the final as that's a Justin Bieber song. Is it too late to say sorry? Answer is no. Shane Bieber, 9 punch-outs. He allows a solo home run over the course of 6 innings of work as that was to Mr. Javier Sonja, his 5th home run season. Then you would have home run number 2 of the campaign for Maximo Acosta. That comes off of Uriel Rodriguez. Rodriguez gives up that solo home run in 2/3 of an inning of work. Mason Flaherty, Brandon Little both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Scoreless, Jeff Hoffman, a scoreless setting, and Ryan Gusto gives up a home run to Dalton Varsho. 14th home run season, and Varsho's getting a home run every 10 and a half at-bats. That's been rock solid for Gusto. He goes 6 innings, but allows 5 runs, all of which were earned from there. Josh Simpson, a scoreless setting, and Valentin Beloso was not a bozo with 2 scoreless innings. The Mets certainly were not bozos at the plate themselves. 12-7, they absolutely mollywhopped the Atlanta Braves as for Nolan McLean gives up 2 runs over the course of 7 innings. A good start here. He does allow a home run along the way as Ron Acuna Jr. gets his 15th home run in the campaign. From there, Reed Garrett does give up 2 runs in his inning work, and Ryan Helsley has been rough. 3 runs allowed in his inning work, but the team had such a big lead that it did not matter, and Juan Soto was able to go deep off of Eric Fetty Wap. 32nd home run season for Fetty. He piggybacked off of Joey Wentz, and both of these guys stunk. Wentz, the starter, 6 runs allowed in 3 1/3 innings. Fetty Wap in long relief, 11 hits allowed in 4 1/3 innings, including 6 runs and that home run to Soto. The Dodd father, Dylan Dodd, 4 outs out of the bullpen squirrel, so yay, barely there, and the Braves lose this game by 5 runs despite the fact that they went 5 of 9 with men in scoring position. So that was not great. Lots of runs scored out there in Baltimore as well as the Orioles have been a solid home over team. They've been a very good road under team for the Astros. 10-7 the final as Lance McCullers Jr. not long for this game gives up 5 walks in 4 innings, 3 total runs. From there, Sean Dubin gives up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings, but Steven Okert out of the bullpen squirrels. Caleb Bort gives up a solo run in 2/3 of an inning of work. Same goes for Angel de los Santos. He gives up a solo run in his inning of work, but Brian Abreu 4 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. And for the Astros, pair of home runs of their own. Kate Povich gives one up to Jeremy Pena, 14th home run season. Christian Walker is 18th off of Yunier Cano, and don't you know for Yunier Cano, he gives up that solo run in 1/3 of an inning. Kate Povich, 6 runs, 4 of which were earned in 4 2/3 innings. Yeah, Kate Stout give you a scoreless inning, but Matt Bowman, 2 runs allowed in 1 1/3 innings, and Corbin Martin, 1 2/3 innings. He allows a run, and for the Baltimore Orioles, pair of home runs. Colton Cowser was able to get his 10th home run season, and it was home run number 1 of the Orioles' career of Emil Machin. I believe that he had a cup of coffee with someone else, but yay, verily for him. And a hip hip hooray for the San Diego Padres being able to take down the LA Dodgers. Things have been less than savory for the Dodgers recently. 2-1 the final as for the Dodgers. Blake Snell was solid. 2 runs allowed in 7 innings. You had from there a scoreless inning out of Eduardo Enriquez, but for the Dodgers, not a lot doing at the plate as you were able to have a home run off the bat of Alex Freeland, his first of the season. For the longest of time, that was the lone hit in the game, as that was the lone hit that Yu Darvish gave up in his 6 innings of work. Robert Suarez will give up a pair of hits in the 9th inning, but kept it clean as he, Jason Adam, Mason Miller, they all end a scoreless inning. So, rough one there for the LA Dodgers, and a rough one for offense in Cubs versus Angels, but the Cubs do find a way to get the job done by a count of 3-2. Aviad Assad, very good in his start. 1 solo run allowed in his 6 innings of work as Yohan Moncada took him deep. 10th home run season, and Moncada was the lone form of offense for the Angels as he also went deep off of Andrew Kittredge. His 11th, Kittredge gives up that solo run in his inning of work. Brad Keller, Daniel Palencia both on his scoreless inning, and for the Cubs, pair of bombs. Pete Crow Armstrong, his first home run since dinosaurs roamed the earth off of Kenley Jansen. That came in the 9th inning in a tie game. His 28th home run in the campaign, and Kyle Tucker, his 19th home run season. That comes off of Tyler Anderson, who was not bad in this one. 2 runs allowed in 5 innings. Jose Fermin, Andrew Chafin combined for a scoreless inning. Robert Stevenson, Reed Detmers give you a scoreless inning, and then Kenley Jansen, well, he takes the loss. He gives up that home run in the 9th inning. For the Walker Texas Rangers, they take it to the Cleveland Guardians by a count of 4-3 as they walk this one off. For the Walker Texas Rangers, winning it, and this one was a Jock Peterson walk-off double as for the Cleveland Guardians, they got what they were hoping for in terms of a good start from Slade Sassoni. 2 runs allowed in 6 innings, albeit came on a pair of solo home runs. Rowdy Tellez, 14th home run season. Wyatt Langford is 19th, but from there, Matthew Fessa, Hunter Gaddis both give you a scoreless inning, and Cade Smith, he came into the 9th inning with the lead, and he gave up 2 hits, including that game-winning RBI double, and he didn't get a single out. And for the Cleveland Guardians, they did an okay job of being able to get the bullpen, as Nathan Eovaldi just continues to be rock solid. 9 punch-outs, 1 run allowed in 7 innings. Hobie Milner gives up a pair of runs without getting a single out. Phil Matone, Robert Garcia, both ended scoreless inning, as Matone was unable to hold on inherited runners, but the Rangers, they do find a way to persevere and get the job done, and so do the Milwaukee Brewers. By a count of 5-4, they take down the San Francisco Giants, as for the Giants, this was not necessarily what they were hoping for out of the bullpen, as Carson Weisenhunt just not a lot of length here. 2 runs allowed in 4 innings. From there, Matt Gage, Jose Bito combined for 2 scoreless innings, but Joey Lucchesi gives up 2 runs in a third of an inning. Robert Walker unable to hold on inherited runners, but 4 outs of the bullpen without any charged runs to him. And then Randy Rodriguez comes on in the 9th inning, and he gives up the walk-off home run to William Contreras. His 14th home run season for Jose Quintana gives up 2 solo home runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings. The Giants had in this game 3 solo home runs. Willie Adames had 2 of them. 21st home run of the campaign, and then he goes deep off of Aaron Ashby for his 22nd. Ashby gives up that solo home run in 2 innings of work. Shelby Miller, a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and then Trevor McGill, he gives up a run in an inning of work, as Luis Matos also did take Jose Quintana deep for his 6th home run in the campaign. But the Brewers now 81-48, by far your best record in all of baseball. And the Minnesota Twins, they get the job done on the road against the Chicago White Sox by a count of 9-7. The Brewers did once employ Aaron Savali, and I'm pretty sure that they don't right now. 4 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, and he did give up a home run to Royce Lewis, his 7th home run season. From there, the bullpen not much better. Brandon Eisner gives up 2 runs in an inning. You had Tyler Gilbert give you a scoreless inning. Grant Taylor, he gives up a run in an inning, and Wikelman Gonzalez gives up 2 unearned runs in his inning of work, hurt by Chase Meredith, error out there in the field. And for the Sox, you had Mr. Colson Montgomery get his 11th home run season, hitting below at 230, but he's getting a home run like every 13 at-bats. Goes deep off of Zebby Matthews, 4 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings. And from there, Cody Funderburk, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Genesis Cabrera, 3 runs allowed in a third of an inning, but Cole Sands made the White Sox pound Sands with a scoreless inning, and Justin Topa, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless to be able to polish things off and get the job done out there. Also being able to get the job done, the Tampa Bay Rays, they take it to the St. Louis Cardinals by a count of 10-6, as Miles Michaelis became a human form of a piñata in this one for Mr. Michaelis. 10 hits allowed in 2 2/3 innings, 5 runs, 4 of which were earned, including a pair of bombs, as he was taken deep in this one for home run number 1 of the season by Tristan Gray. That's not great for him. And then Brandon Lau got loud, 25th home run of the campaign. Oriel Alcala gives one up to Junior Caminero, 36th home run season. Then it was home run number 1 of the season and the career of Carson Williams. In his MLB debut, he's able to go deep off of Ryan Fernandez. For Fernandez, he gives up that home run, 2 runs in total in 1 1/3 innings. Anthony Venciano, the former Marlin, gives up 2 runs in 3 innings, and then Oriel Alcala gives up a solo home run in his inning of work. Wilson Contreras, because William Contreras went deep on this day, he went deep as well off of Griffin Jacks, his 19th home run season. Then it was home run number 1 for Nathan Church for the St. Louis Cardinals. He was able to go deep off of Adrian Doncom, Doogie Howser. Howser gets the win, but he didn't pitch the greatest. 4 runs allowed in 6 1/3 innings. From there, Jacks gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning, including a bomb. But you had Brian Baker, Pete Fairbanks, both be able to lend a scoreless inning, and you had plenty of scoreless innings lent by the Seattle Mariners, as they do indeed get the job done. They get the win over the A's by a count of 3-1. As for the Athletics, this was a pretty well-pitched game by them, as Luis Morales gives up a solo run over the course of his 6 innings of work, going deep for the Seattle Mariners. It was one Mr. Eugenio Suarez, his 40th home run season. Then the bullpen does what the bullpen does. Elvis Alvarado gave up a pair of bombs, or a Polanco 19th home run season. Josh Naylor 16th home run season, as Alvarado gives up those 2 home runs in his inning of work. Justin Sterner, a scoreless inning. And for Brent Rooker, he had the lone run of the game until the 9th inning. He goes deep off of Brian Wu for his 26th home run of the campaign. For Wu, he said woohoo to a nice start, giving up that 1 run over the course of 7 innings. Matt Brash from there, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, Gabe Spire in out as well. Andres Munoz had things get interesting. He gives up a run in the 9th inning to make it 3-2, but was able to polish things off. He got the job done, and then I'm doing this as this game is in the 10th inning, so we are going to be looking at this game very intently as I do the rest of this podcast, because I need to have this podcast up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern. But that said, the Reds currently up by a count of 5-4 in the bottom of the 10th inning against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Zach Littell came out very little for the Reds. He gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned over the course of 3 innings, and he does allow a home run in this one to Gabriel Moreno, 6th home run season. From there, the Reds' bullpen has been amazing. Sam Moll was able to give you 4 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. You had 5 outs out of the bullpen squirrels from one Mr. Connor Phillips, and then Brent Suter, Tony Santana, Emilio Pagan. I'll give you scoreless inning. Graham Ashcraft trying to polish off the 10th to be able to get the win. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, you had Ryan Nelson lend a good amount of length, 3 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. From there, you did have Kyle Bacchus give up a run in a third of an inning. Juan Burgos was able to lend his scoreless inning. Juan Murillo, he gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Squirrels. Andrew Selfrank, scoreless inning. John Curtis with 2 assists allows a unearned run in the 10th inning, and this actually truly was an unearned run as he scored on an error as John Curtis with 2 assists had the throwing error that led to the run, so good on him for John Curtis with 2 assists, but I know he makes things a lot of fun. And if you're taking a look trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, we do have that Reds versus Arizona Diamondbacks game pending, but that said, overall for the season, favorites sitting at about 56.9%, 1,083 and 822 on the money line. The under rate in Major League Baseball is 51.4%, 944 and 894 overall. But if you look at the last 30 days in Major League Baseball, we've been seeing quite a few overs, 191 overs to 171 unders, with money line favorites in this time span having some struggles. 210 and 173, that's a 54.8% hit rate. And if you look at the last 7 days in Major League Baseball, things certainly have been getting a bit overwhelming there. 50 overs to 34 unders. And for money line favorites, hitting at about 57% in that time span, 53 and 40. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, but if we do talk about the MLB landscape, the playoff picture, and the struggles of the New York Mets with one of our good friends, Mr. Dylan Rockford of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beast Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beast Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Dylan Rockford aboard. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know he's doing a wide variety of things over here at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Not just taking a look at baseball, but doing a great job getting set for a little bit of football. I know that he does X-Kicks picks. That is all based around MMA, the fight game. So he's a very well-rounded man. He does a wide variety of different things. And you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at Rock with 2Ks, the number 24 altogether. And Dylan, great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Absolutely, Greg. Good to be with you. And yeah, we're winding down to the dog days of summer football starting up. We got about a month left in baseball, and I'll say this, it's been very challenging for me in my New York Mets, but we're hanging tough. Got some day baseball. That was a positive. I'll say that. It was a positive.
Yep, all-day baseball is always a positive day, in my opinion, as well. And how about if we do start there, because you mentioned it, we are starting to wind out in terms of these days of summer before football. And do you think that it actually is a little bit to the advantage of those of us that take a look at baseball all throughout the entirety of the season into the postseason? Because I notice that there's a lot of people that, baseball is the only sport like this, where you're gauging baseball all throughout the summertime. You're taking a look at it when it's in the middle of the season, and then right when the going gets good into the playoff races, people dump out and go to football instead. And I actually think that that's the advantage of the people that stick with the sport.
Absolutely. I was saying that to Scott earlier on the MLB Gambling Podcast over on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, where, in the beginning, I think the markets, the lines aren't sharp. We get great numbers for the first few weeks or month. And then when everyone goes to college football and the NFL in about week 0 is this weekend, and the NFL in 2 weeks, that's when we get all the lines aren't as sharp. So yeah, take advantage of it. You and I know a lot of people, I love betting baseball every day. So yeah, I would agree. I think those are the type of days where you could take advantage of the markets. And I think odds makers, I don't think they're as sharp as they were when it was the only sport to bet on. So yeah, I agree. I think it's an advantage for us baseball bettors. Absolutely.
Yep, no question about it. And myself being a college basketball guy, I always love football because that means that the college basketball numbers aren't quite as sharp towards the early part of the season as well. So I will very much take that. And you were talking about the New York Mets just a minute ago. Obviously, it's been a little bit less than savory for them over the last few weeks. And just how do you take a look at their positioning? Because the good news for them, and this isn't really good news because you don't want to see anyone dealing with blood clots, but Zach Wheeler is out of the lineup right now For the Phillies, nobody knows when he is going to be returning. But for the Mets, they just lose that series against the Washington Nationals. It's been all over the place. Did take a few games from the Seattle Mariners, but I think that you'd agree with me. It's just been a little bit of rough going for the pitching in general over the last few weeks.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. I was there last week, a Sean Manaea game against the Mariners where they lost. It's just been all over the place. I've never seen a team that rolls over the way they do. This team doesn't have any grit. I think I was on your podcast a few weeks ago right after the deadline. I didn't think they did enough pitching wise at the deadline. Middle reliever that they got from St. Louis has been terrible. They released Paul Blackburn. Sean Manaea hasn't been good. Kodai Senga just walks,
Frankie Montas.
Oh my God. The list goes on. The list goes on and on. It's actually sad. And yeah, you never want to see Zach Wheeler go down. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball, but they're clearly the better team right now. And they're 7 games ahead. They're great at home. They're mashing the ball right now. They're great on the road. So the Mets are not going to catch them. Honestly, I don't think the Mets are going to make the playoffs. If I'm being honest, the Mets are going to Met. I think Cincinnati is just playing a little better baseball right now. So I would actually favor the Reds to take that last spot than the Mets. But it's been a tough one. You got the kid going on Friday. We'll see how he does. He had a good first start against Seattle, but I don't know. I really don't. I'm like lost the words of how bad this team is. It just seems like they have no heart. They have no pride. And whenever the going gets tough, they just roll over. It's disheartening, honestly, being a fan.
And it's been interesting to take a look at the Mets because if they are able to make it into the playoffs, it just still feels like it's a wide open landscape. Even the Milwaukee Brewers, who have the best record in all of baseball, I think that we both agree. I'm not necessarily sold on them being the best team in all of baseball. The LA Dodgers have been all sorts of banged up. The Phillies might not have Zach Wheeler for the rest of the year. If the Mets can just find a way to get in, they have themselves a chance. But I think the challenge might be actually just getting in.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I like the Brewers. I think they are very legit. I'm kind of biased because they play baseball the way I play baseball and the way I like to see baseball being played. I think the one issue I have with Milwaukee in the postseason, they really don't have that one guy. They don't hit home runs a lot either. That is what I worry about as well. So, yeah, it's wide open. And, obviously the Padres and Dodgers are going back and forth. We'll see how they do. Big series coming up between them, probably to decide the division. And yeah, you never really know with Zach Wheeler, who might miss the rest of the season. So yeah, if the Mets could get in, you're right, they do have a shot. So we'll see. But I mean, the way they've been playing, they're going to get swept over the weekend. It's just how I see it right now. Yeah, they had a pretty decent series against Seattle, winning 2 of 3. You lose 2 of 3 to the Nationals. Now you go on the road and take on the Braves, who I got to give them credit where it's due. The Braves have been playing some pretty good baseball.
Yep, internal optimist, Dylan Rockford of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Had to throw that in there, but I do think that for as much as we talk about the National League, and I think that we were alluding to a very, very open landscape, the American League is as wide open gets right now. I'm not sure how you take a look at the American League, but I'm not sold on the Detroit Tigers. I'm not sold on the Houston Astros. I'm not sold on the New York Yankees. I'm not sold on the Boston Red Sox. I'm not sold on the Toronto Blue Jays. I feel like any team that's able to make the playoffs, even the Kansas City Royals, who I'm not necessarily in love with, I feel like all these teams have a shot to be able to make a run because it just feels like such a mediocre league this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is very mediocre, especially in that AL. For a whole, I think, second half of the season, I was like, okay, maybe Toronto is legit. Maybe they can go. The way the Yankees have been scoring the baseball recently, they lost the series against the Pirates. I understand dropping a game to Paul Skeens, but the Blue Jays should have won that series. So that was a tough one. They do get Shane Bieber back, so we'll see how that winds up going. But I don't know. The AL's wide open. I like the Tigers, but I worry about them as well in their pitching. I think they're a very inconsistent team. My question to you, and we've been wrapping our heads around it on the baseball podcast, who's going to come out of this AL West team? It looked like about 2-3 weeks ago, the Rangers have been playing well. They stink now. Mariners have the best pitching, but they don't have the experience outside of Randy Arozarena. And then Houston, they're just hanging on by a thread. I would take Seattle, but don't trust them offensively right now.
Yep, I agree with you. I would take the Seattle Mariners right now, especially with them now getting back Bryce Miller. It looked a little bit shaky coming off the injured list, but it typically happens to pitchers in their first start off the injured list. But how much do you look at this with Seattle? They might be the biggest boom or bust team out there in the American League because with the way that their lineup is built, it's very top heavy with Cal Raleigh along with Eugenio Suarez. And I recognize that Raleigh draws a lot of walks, but it feels like it's a home run or he gets an out whenever he does make contact with the ball. And for the Seattle Mariners, it does feel like a team that could actually be hurt by their home field advantage because Seattle is so pitcher friendly.
Yeah, very pitcher friendly. Luis Castillo, he got raked up a little bit last start. I like George Kirby. I like Logan Gilbert. Brandon Wu is good. He gives them a lot of length. I think 6+ innings in like almost every start this season. I like their closer. Cal Raleigh just continues to mash. I like Josh Naylor, but we'll see. I think the bottom of the lineup really worries me as well. We'll see what Polanco winds up doing. Julio Rodriguez is all right. I just worry because they're so very hot and cold. You saw them have a lot of runs in that Mets series, and then they just got absolutely destroyed by the Philadelphia Phillies. So it is very hit or miss, and I worry about them away from Seattle. So they were very good scoring runs away from Seattle, but recently they haven't done so well. So yeah, I worry offensively for them, but I think just on paper, and I hate to use that expression, but on paper, the talent is there for this team.
Yep, I do think so as well. And for the Seattle Mariners, being able to get back their starters, I think that is going to be really helping them out as well. And I take a look at the Boston Red Sox as such an intriguing team as well, because Wilder Abreu is now on the injured list for them. So that is a little bit of an issue. But this has been a team that ever since the Rafael Devers trade, they've been able to do a nice job of mixing and matching. And out there in that AL East, it does feel like it's pretty wide open between the Yankees, and the Blue Jays, because I'm right there with you. I was off put by that series against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and with the Blue Jays, even though they've been playing some better baseball, they just don't feel like a team that really screams World Series contender to me.
No, they don't. They're very hot and cold as well. I mean, they get a good series here coming up against the Fish, who, they haven't been playing well either. So maybe they'll find their rhythm a little bit. They're still under 500 away from Toronto. So I like Toronto to win the division still. I know the Yankees have been red hot right now. You never know what happens between that rivalry with Boston and the Yankees. And you're right. At first, the Boston, after trading Rafael Devers, they've been really good. They kind of cooled down recently, so we'll see how they do this series. They lost 3 in a row, 2 straight to the Orioles, but they do just call up the number 3 prospect. His nickname is the Password. Do you know anything about him?
The Password, I think, is just an absolutely tremendous nickname, by the way. So that's a lot of fun. But because they had Marcelo Meyer up there a little bit earlier before, but it's the young gun in Mr. Johaxin Garcia. Hopefully I said that correct. And he's another one of these guys that they've been talking about as being rock solid. He's not quite Roman Anthony. Roman Anthony has not necessarily been able to hit for a lot of power, but he's a guy that's able to move the line. He's been able to get on base. For Garcia, he's another one of these guys that he's not necessarily going to rip the cover off the ball at the minor league level. He does have 20 home runs this season, but he just finds a way on base. And I do think that he's going to be able to give them a little bit of something, because with the Red Sox, they don't necessarily have that one guy that strikes fear in you in that lineup. What they're really built around is being solid 1 through 9, and I feel like he could be a nice cog for them.
Do you worry it's a little too late that they called him up, though? That's my worry on this.
I don't think so, just because we saw what the Chicago Cubs did about a week or so ago, being able to call up their young guy. They were able to get a lot of production out of him in that series against the Milwaukee Brewers. For Cassie, he was able to be relatively productive, and I do think that some of these guys that they are called up late, they will make big contributions. Look at like David Price many years ago with the Rays. I know that that's a way back machine, but I really don't have a lot of fear with them, especially with the fact that he's getting called up before these September call-ups as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think it was just the right time. I was just reading on Reddit. People were, there's pessimistics on Reddit, and they were saying, hey, it's a little too late. But I don't think he's necessarily Roman Anthony talent, but he could definitely bring a spark to a team that is struggling right now. 3-7 in their last 10. They lost 3 in a row. Desperate series here against the Yankees, but I actually like them on Friday, by the way. But I think this team is desperate for a little spark. The kid could bring it for him.
Yep, absolutely. And I do want to ask you about this as well, because we have talked about teams that we are bearish on, and this has been a very negative podcast in terms of talking about a lot of these teams. Is there a team that you're feeling a little bit positive about? Because I have a little bit of a tough time bringing myself to feeling relatively good about any of these teams as well, but is there a team or two that you've been betting on quite a bit that you feel like they're moving in the right direction?
Well, a team that I've been making actually a lot of money on, they're not in playoff contention, but the Athletics. I mean, I like that team. I think they're a year or two away, but offensively, they could score the ball. It's the bullpen and the pitching I worry about, but I've been making a lot of money off of the Athletics. I guess one team that I am bullish on moving forward, and, we talked about it. They won again here on Thursday, but Kansas City Royals, I mean, they're doing it with their pitching. They won one in a row because they lost the other day. But, they're only 2 back of the Mariners, who have lost 5 in a row. I think if they could catch the Mariners, they're playing really good baseball right now. So I like them. I know they have a tough series this weekend against Detroit. We'll see how they do there. But see, I like Kansas City. I think this is a team that could fight and maybe sneak their way in. And in the National League, I don't like anybody besides maybe Cincinnati Reds. I don't trust St. Louis. Yeah, Arizona's playing a little better, but I really don't trust them either. The Giants stink. Yeah, I don't really like anyone in the National League. One team that I have been winning a lot of money on is the Kansas City Royals.
Yep, the Royals have been able to get hot. It's been a team that has been very good to the under, by the way. Recognize the last few games of that series against the Rangers were a little bit rough. That error in the game on Wednesday had me a little bit off put, but you know what? They've been able to do a rock solid job, just like you always do a great job doing. I know you're doing a tremendous job over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, looking at baseball, looking at the fight game, and so much more. So let the good people at home know what's on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, you guys can find me over on Twitter/X at Rock with 2Ks24. We got our 2-a-days wrapping up. We got one more division to preview. And then before you know it, we'll have September 4th, we'll have opening night here for the NFL. Week 0 is this weekend. UFC does not stop. Early wake-up time. UFC Shanghai in China this weekend. So we're locked and loaded Saturday morning all the way through night when we get Hawaii and Stanford. But yeah, locked and loaded. And, Greg, we'll sleep when we're dead,
Yes, absolutely. I love that saying, and that is one of my favorites as well. And I know that Dylan, he does such a great job looking at so many different fronts, and he always delivers the goods on this podcast. So big thanks to Dylan for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the Beast and Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast, taking you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Dylan Rockford, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So a big thanks to Dylan for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we're going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things started with 9:51, 9:52 on the card? It is the Washington Nationals. They are on the road. They're facing off against the Philadelphia Phillies as Aaron Nola looks to be super for the Phils, and Mitchell Parker is on the bump for Washington. Washington does find themselves as sizable underdogs, anywhere between plus 183 to a plus 190. Minus 210 to a minus 225 is that number on the Phillies, and 9 is the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. Now, if you're looking at the initial FanDuel opener with regards to the run line, which these are always subject to a whole heck of a lot of change, right now you'd be laying minus 105 on that Phillies run line, and I would be willing to lay that Phillies run line, so that's where I'm going to be looking. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 125 with that run line. Just absolutely no faith whatsoever in Mitchell Parker, and Aaron Nola has been brutal all season long. young. He is just coming off the injured list, and his first start against this very Washington Nationals team was brutal for Aaron Nola. He's got a 6.92 ERA this season with a 4.87 fielding dependent, giving up 1.9 home runs per 9 innings, gave up 6 runs in 2 1/3 innings against the Washington Nationals his last time out. But Mitchell Parker, his last time out against the Philadelphia Phillies, he gave up 6 runs and he got 5 outs. So that was a slugfest to say the least, and for our good friend in Mitchell Parker, 5.83 ERA. He's only giving up 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, but no deception here whatsoever, 5.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, when it comes to the Washington Nationals, they've actually been a top 12 team in terms of runs per game away from home this season. James Wood has been able to supply 26 home runs. He has slowed down quite a bit ever since the All-Star break, but still giving you over a 350 on base. CJ Abrams has 16 home runs this season, and 13 of them have come on the road. He's hitting about a 265. You do need the young guys to step it up. Dylan Cruz is off the injured list, but he's hitting right around a 200. They've been relying upon Riley Adams at the catcher spot with Keibert Ruiz, with injury. He's been hitting about a 210. Now, Josh Bell, since the beginning of the month of July, he's been hitting above a 275. He's up to 16 home runs, and they DFA'd Nathaniel Lowe, so that's a bit of an issue. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, Kyle Schwarber has just been tremendous for this team. How about a 375 on base with 45 home runs? And then Bryce Harper, he's up to 21 bombs since coming off the injury list. He's been able to give this team a nice spark, and when it comes to Trey Turner, 31 stolen bases, hitting at 300. And you got plenty of guys move the line for the team. Brandon Marsh, J.G.B. Mito, Alec Boehm, all in between about a 267 to 280. So that's been solid. Now, for both of these teams, the bullpen has been rough. For the Phillies, they do pick up Yohan Duran at the trade deadline, and you're getting a little bit more likes of Matt Strom or Ryan Kerkering. These guys give you a sub 335 ERA. And Jose Alvarado, I believe, just had his suspension up as he was able to return in that series against the Seattle Mariners. Will not be available in the postseason, but for the rest of August into September, he will be available, and that's big because Jordan Romano has been absolutely terrible for this team, so that's nice. And for the Washington Nationals, this entire bullpen is just bad. Like Jose Ferrer, Jackson Rutledge, Orlando Ribalta, Clayton Beto, Shinkusuke Ogasara, all these guys are posting up over a 4.5 ERA, so that's not great to say the least. I do think that you're going to get plenty of run scoring as a result in this game. I did set my total at 9.7 here at the 9. I'm going to be in on the over. I think that Nola gives up some runs, but I think that Mitchell Parker is even worse, so I'm going to be willing to lay up to a minus 125 with that Phillies run line. 953, 954 on the card. The Rockies are on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Mike Burrows is on the bump for the Pirates, and Mr. Kyle Freeland goes for Colorado. Colorado does find themselves as between a plus 143 to a plus 150 underdog. Minus 165 to a minus 175. It's that number. Pittsburgh 8.5 is the total. The under is minus 120, and the over is even. Again, utilizing that initial opener for the run line, you're able to get a plus 125 if you lay a run half with the Pirates. I was willing to go up to a plus 116 or higher, so seeing some value there. For Mike Burrows, he's been a solid swing and miss guy this year. He had a few rough starts when he was coming up to the big league level at the beginning part of the season, but has rounded in form. 4.46 ERA with 0 or 1 runs allowed in 3 out of his last 5 starts, albeit he's actually had some pretty rough goes of it at home. He's been a little bit better when he has been on the road rather than at home. For Burrows, 4.67 home ERA, 4.13 ERA on the road, and he is giving up 2 home runs per 9 innings at home, but the good news is he gets a face-off against Colorado Rockies team that is dead stinking last in terms of on-base percentage when they are on the road this season, and they're averaging right around about 3 runs per game on the road this season. You've got Warming Venable currently on the injured list, and that's a big deal because Guy has actually really stepped up for the team, hitting a 300 with 4 home runs in a small sample size, so you'll love to see that. Kyle Karros, the son of Eric Karros, finally got his first career home run. He's been able to give you a bit of something, and Hunter Goodman has actually been really good on the road this season. 25 home runs overall this season, but on the road, he's been able to hit 15 of those home runs. He's been hitting above a 260 when he's been away from home, so that's been rock solid. But then you got a lot of other guys that they just see their numbers big time shrink when they're away from home. You're going to have some demonstrative home and road splits when you go away from elevation. Brenton Doyle is hitting a $159 away from home. You've had Jordan Beck hitting at 223 away from home compared to over a 300 at Coors Field. Mickey Moniak is hitting at 215 away from home with a 248 on base. So these guys have been all sorts of brutal there. And what else has been all sorts of brutal has been this Colorado Rockies bullpen. Currently they are second worst in all baseball in terms of bullpen ERA. Victor Vodnik has been very solid. He's been able to give you sub 375 ERA. And then you've been able to get some good innings out of Jimmy Erget. He's down below a 3 ERA as well. But then you've got the likes of Seth Alverson, who's been a little bit banged up. Zach Ognos is on the injured list. Nick Anderson, Anel Shavili, so many guys. Right now rocking an over 4.75 ERA. Ryan Rolson has not been great for this team, to say the least. And on the other end for the Pittsburgh Pirates, this has been a team that's been average to slightly below average with regards to their bullpen ERA. They are without David Bednar because they traded him away at the trade deadline. But, you've had some of these other guys step up. Now, a few of these guys like Braxton Ashcraft are now starters for the team, but Torrey Moretta in a small sample size hasn't been bad with about a 3.85 ERA. Dennis Santana, Isaac Manson, both below a sub-2.75 ERA as well. And then for the Pirates, this team has been dead sinking last in the big leagues in terms of their overall run production, and you just haven't been able to get a lot of power out of this team. You've only got 3 guys on the roster with over 6 home runs: Andrew McCutchen, Brian Reynolds, Oneil Cruz. And for Oneil Cruz, he's been dealing with a little bit of ailment recently. He has been just not hitting for a lot of averages. There's a lot of guys on this team hitting below a 215. He, Lovar Piguero, Emmanuel Valdez, Henry Davis, Jack Swiniski, you just go down the list, and it is rampant. And for Kyle Freeland, he just gives up a lot of contact in general. He does a nice job in terms of not giving up a lot of walks. He actually does a pretty okay job of keeping the ball in the yard as well, but with only 6.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, 2.3 walks, 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but that 5.16 ERA, that is a little bit of a concern. I do think that this is going to be a lower scoring game with the way that both of these offenses have just not supplied all season long. Me and Dylan an 8.2, so here at the 8.5, I like the under. And for the Pirates, that plus 125 is calling my name on the run line. 9.55, 9.56 on the card. The San Francisco Giants are on the road facing off against the Milwaukee Brewers, as Freddie Peralta is on the bump for the Crew, and Logan Webb goes for the Giants. 7.5 is the total. Under is minus 115. Over is minus 105. And for the Brewers, they are between minus 120 to minus 137 on the money line. Plus 112 to a plus 116 is that number on San Francisco. And I made the Brewers minus 140 on the money line. I'm going to be willing to lay it. Now, with Freddie Peralta, even though he's getting about 9.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, that's actually a career low for him. For any other pitcher, that'd be really, really good. But he is giving up 3.3 walks per 9 innings, along with that 2.78 ERA. He is posting up about a 3.70 fielding independent with the walks. Has been very rock solid recently, but do have to be worried about a little bit of regression there. And he does face off against a San Francisco Giants team that, even though they have been one of your lesser offensive teams in all of baseball, it's a lot of it having to do with the fact that they're in such a pitcher-friendly ballpark. 3.55 runs per game at home, that's last in the National League, compared to about 4.5 runs per game away from home. And this has been a Brewers unit that has been hitting all over the place. 5.1 runs per contest. That is number 3 in all baseball, which means that Logan Webb is going to have his hands full. And Logan Webb has had himself a really nice season thus far. 9.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's only giving up about 0.6 walks per 9. 3.19 ERA, 2.56 fielding dependent, but has had a few hiccups recently, 4+ runs allowed in 2 of his last 5 starts. And for Logan Webb, because he does pitch in such a good pitcher's ballpark, he always has demonstrative home and road splits. His ERA at home is right around about at 2.77 compared to a 3.70 on the road just this season. And if you look at the entirety of his career, his ERA does balloon up to about a 4 when he is away from home. At home, it is significantly lowered at 2.77, and his home runs per 9 rate jumps by over 50% when he is away from home. Now, this is a Giants bullpen that overall for the season, they have been in the top 3 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA, but that was with Camilo Duvall and Tyler Rogers in the bullpen. They're still dealing with the injury to Eric Miller, which means that you've got Spencer Bivens, who's been posting up an ERA above a 4, Ryan Walker about a 3.75. Matt Gage has actually been really good in this bullpen, and Randy Rodriguez continues to be rock solid with a sub-2 ERA, but for the Giants, you've got Matt Chapman, one of your main mashers currently on the injury list. I will say for Willie Adames, he has been able to get hot recently with the deep ball. You take a look at his last 100 at-bats, he's been able to supply the team with 5 home runs, so that's been solid hitting for no average, but he's been able to give you a little bit more power since the beginning of the month of July, so that's been a step in the right direction. You've got Eloy Ramos, along with Jung-Ho Lee, both in the neighborhood of a 265. Ramos, about a 340 on base, 15 home runs. Dom Smith has been able to above a 260, but Patrick Bailey has been an issue for this team. You really have not gotten anything whatsoever out of Tyler Fitzgerald as well. And Rafael Devers, you just expected more out of the guy this year. I recognize that the overall season numbers aren't bad, but he's got 10 home runs in 56 games with the Giants with a 230 average, so that's an issue. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, you don't necessarily have a whole bunch of thunderous power or anything like that. There's only one guy in the starting lineup right now with more than 15 home runs. That'd be Christian Yelich, 26 bombs, but just everyone on this Brewers team is moving the line and giving you at the very minimum a 330 on base. You've got it from the likes of a Caleb Durbin, William Contreras, obviously mentioned Yelich before, Bryce Durang, Sal Frelick. So all these guys are doing a really good job there. And they picked up Brandon Lockridge, and he's been hitting at 275 for the team. So whatever's in the water in Milwaukee, it's working for them right now. And there's a Brewers team that since the beginning of the month of June, they have been a top 7 team with regards to bullpen ERA. They've done a nice job of just mixing and matching these guys. Trevor McGill, Aaron Ashby, Abner Uribe, all posting up an ERA that is a 2.10 or lower. Nick Mears, Grant Anderson, these guys have been pretty rock solid as well. And I do think that for the Brewers, they do get to Logan Webb and a bullpen for the Giants that isn't what it was at the beginning of the year. Semi-total 7.6, like that 7 over. And with the Brewers, willing to lay up to minus 140 on that money line. 957, 958 on the card. The New York Mets are on the road against the Atlanta Braves as Cal Quantrill makes his Braves debut, and Clay Holmes is on the bump for the Mets. The Mets do find themselves as a road favorite of between minus 120 to minus 126, plus 104 to plus 109 is that number on the Atlanta Braves, and the total is 9.5. The under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. Cal Quantrill is now the Olive Garden of Major League Baseball. He's been passed around like a basket of breadsticks. 4th time in the last 3 years he's on a new team, and it did not go well for him in Miami. And I loved Cal Quantrill and the money he made me quite a few years ago with the Guardians, but 5.50 ERA with 6.7 strikeouts, 1.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Not been savory to say the least. A combined 15 runs allowed across his last 3 starts, and in those last 3 starts, he won a combined 12 innings. So, yeah, he's not coming in great form. Meanwhile, for Clay Holmes, he allows a lot of contact, only about 7.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's only giving up 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. 364 ERA, 415 fielding dependent. Now, if you look since the All-Star break, the Atlanta Braves have actually been a top 5 unit in terms of run production. You've got Ronald Acuna Jr. back in the fold. He's given you a 423 on base, 14 home runs at about 220 at-bats. That's been solid. And Michael Harris is starting to hit the deep ball. 16 home runs, 257. Still very off put by the 277 on base, but he's been better. Ozzie Albies, 300 on base with 10 home runs. He's improving as well. There without Austin Riley, but Marcell Ozuna, 366 on base along with Matt Olson. Olson, 19 home runs. Ozuna has been able to give you 20 bombs. Still have Nick Allen give you 0 home runs at a 225 average. That's not great, to say the least. And Drickson Profar has been a little bit better with the glove rather than the bat, but now he's up to 10 home runs at his first 190 or so at-bats. Now for the Braves, the bullpen has been less than tremendous. It's about league average in terms of their ERA, but you just have had a lot of disappointments in this bullpen. Raciel Iglesias, Aaron Bummer, hovering right around about a 3.85 to a 4 ERA has just not been tremendous for the team. When they've relied upon Dylan Dodd, it's been up and down. Austin Cox, these just random relievers that they've had to throw out there have not been great. Now, I do like what you've been able to get out of a pair of guys in Dylan Lee and Desbel Hernandez. Both of these guys a sub 275 ERA, and when it comes to the other end for the New York Mets, I do think that Ryan Elsley is going to be able to find it sooner rather than later, as he has been a disaster for the team thus far, but Tyler Rogers has been able to pay off for them. He's been solid ever since they picked him up, and so is Gregory Soto, though I don't have a lot of faith in Gregory Soto. A pair of guys in Reed Garrett along with Justin Hageman be able to give you sub 335 ERA to be able to get the ball to Edwin Diaz, and it is a top-heavy Mets lineup. Now Francisco Alvarez starting to hit for a little bit more average, and Mark Vientos has been a little bit better recently, but it's been an up-and-down season for him. Sterling Marte starting to give you about a 355 on base, but the main power comes from a quartet of guys, as you've got Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Juan Soto, all with at least 20 home runs. With Soto, 31 bombs, 380 on base. You've got about a 350 on base from Alonso with 28 home runs. Lindor has been hitting better over the last few weeks. He was dealing with a summertime injury with like a little bit of a lower body issue, and I do think that the Mets are going to do a nice job taking it to Cal Quantrill here. I do think that Clay Holmes keeps the ball in the yard, so I might tell 9.2, so at the 9.5, I'm in on the under, and I'm in on that Mets money line. 959, 960 on the card. The Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're on to the road facing off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, Bill Chrismet is on the bump for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and Andrew Abbott goes for the Reds. The Reds are a favorite of between minus 125 to a minus 130, plus 105 to a plus 115 is that number on Arizona with a total of 9. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. I did set the Reds at a minus 139. I'm going to be willing to lay that money line for Chrismet. He's been just sort of a journeyman guy. I remember when he was with the San Diego Padres, he was a really good long reliever for them about 2 or so years ago. Last year just was unable to get out there on the field for the LA Dodgers, but and in his small sample size of one start thus far, gave up 1 run in 5 innings. So, yay, verily there. You look at what he was able to do at the minor league level a little bit earlier this year. He spent some time with the Phillies and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Wasn't great, wasn't awful. 3.96 ERA, mostly out there with Lehigh Valley, which is a little bit of a better pitcher's, shall we say, environment. Was only getting about 6.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, but really wasn't hurting himself with the walks at all at the major league level for his career. Closer to about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, so I think that might be coming back to him a little bit, but he's out with injuries over the last few years. For Andrew Abbott, he has been very rock solid. If you look at the fielding independent numbers, should be doing for some regression on a 2.28 ERA. It's just hard to sustain that. 3.52 fielding independent. He's only getting about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's not hurting himself. 2.4 walks, 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He has given up 300 runs or fewer and I believe all but 4 of his starts this far this season, and 2 earned runs or fewer out of his 22 starts, I believe in 17 of them. He has just been rock solid and has been incredibly consistent for this team. It is a Reds bullpen that they're right around about league average. They're not great, they're not terrible. You do have Emilio Pagan, who gives up the deep ball a little bit too much, as his home runs per 9 rate is always one of the higher ones that you're going to find for a reliever. But that said, he and Tony Santillan are both giving you a sub 3.15 ERA. Luis May has been able to give you about a 3.50 ERA along with Scott Barlow, Brent Suter. They're not amazing, but they're guys that are getting the job done. And for the Reds, you can say that about the lineup outside of Elly De La Cruz. De La Cruz, 31 stolen bases, 350 on base, 19 home runs. And then from there, you got a lot of guys that are just sort of moving the line and hitting for between 10 and 11 home runs. Like Matt McClain, 11 home runs, so he's not moving the line, hitting at 220. But TJ Friedel, Austin Hayes, Navoli Marte, all at 10 home runs. Hayes is hitting about a 260. Marte is made above a 300. TJ Friedel, 367 on base. Gavin Lux, not a lot of power, but a 360 on base. So I think these guys have been able to do a relatively solid job there. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, still a top 8 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, albeit without Eugenio Suarez and Josh Naylor. It's taken a little bit of a dive, but for Corbin Carroll, 4 home runs in his last 12 games after he was a little bit rough coming off the injury list, back to hitting above a 250. That's a good sign. You've got Geraldo Perdomo hitting for about a 390 on base. Some of the young guys had to fill in with the trade deadline, shall we say, moves. You've got Blaze Alexander up to about a 323 on base, so he's only hitting about a 225. You need that to go northward. Jose Herrera has had to step in at the catcher spot, and he has not been great, to say the least, so that's been a bit of an issue. But Ketel Marte, 394 on base. He's seen a little bit of a dive in terms of his home run power here in the second half, but still 23 home runs overall for the season. And the big issue that you've got with the Arizona Diamondbacks is the bullpen that is in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. You just don't have a lot of guys that are doing a good job. Andrew Saalfrank has been great. He's been able to give you a sub 2 ERA, but then you've got the likes of Juan Murillo, Bryce Jarvis, Jalen Beeks. A lot of guys are posting up an ERA that is north of 4.5. So you've got your issues there, but in the end, I do think that for the Reds, they are going to be able to get a good start out of Andrew Abbott. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 138 on that money line. My bet total 9.1, so you're at the 9. I'm also in on the over, 961, 962. On the card, the San Diego Padres play out the LA Dodgers. Tyler Glasnow is on the bump for the Dodgers, and one Mr. Ness Cortez is on the bump for the Padres. Padres do find themselves between plus 112 to plus 118 underdogs, between minus 130 to minus 137. That number on the Dodgers, 8 is the total. The over is minus 115, under is minus 105, and made the Dodgers a minus 153 favorite. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on them on the money line for Tyler Glasnow. You do have to have some concerns in terms of the amount of walks that he's giving up, but overall, since coming off the injury list, he's been pretty rock solid, as he has given up 2 runs or fewer in all but one of his starts since coming off the injury list. That was just before the trade deadline. 11.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. Again, the 4.4 walks per 9 innings, that's an issue. That's a big reason why he's got a 416 fielding independent, but he should be able to stifle a San Diego Padres team that has actually been below average in terms of run production thus far this season, and most of it is because they just haven't had a lot of power. They do pick up Ramon Laureano at the trade deadline, 19 home runs, over a 340 on base, and you also get Ryan O'Hearn, guy that's been able to give you 14 plus home runs. His on base percentage has been very rock solid at about a 375 or so, but it's all about Manny Machado along with Fernando Tatis Jr. These have been the 2 catalysts for the team all season long. Machado up to 21 home runs, about a 355 on base. Tatis, he's been stuck stuck on 17 home runs for quite some time, but he's still giving you that 370 on base, so that's been very encouraging. Luis Arias continues to hit about a 290. The rest of the lineup has been a little bit hit or miss. Gavin Sheets up to 17 home runs has been solid, but Jake Cronenworth, even though he's got the 356 on base, he's only been able to bat at 240. Jackson Merrill, 320 on base. He's been injured all season long. The catcher spot has been an issue, though. Breaking up Freddie Fermin from the Royals, that was a nice addition, and the big thing for the Padres has been the bullpen. They have been number one in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. Just so many guys are able to come in and hold down the four. Jeremiah Estrada, David Morgan, Andre Monajon, Jason Adam. These guys have all been able to give you a sub-275 ERA. Robert Suarez has been a little bit hit or miss in the back half of games, but he and Wandy Peralta still relatively solid, and that's a big leg up that you've got over the Dodgers, whose bullpen has been very just banged up in general. Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, along with Brock and Roll Stewart, all being on the injured list. That's a little bit rough, though. Jack Dreyer, Alex Vesia, these guys have been able to give you sub-325 ERA, and the Dodgers are now a little bit banged up in the lineup as well. Max Muncy being out is rough, as you saw with Max Muncy being out in the month of July. They were actually in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of runs per game, though. I don't think that it's going to be quite the same this time around. You still have Shohei Ohtani doing amazing things, 44 home runs, 390 on base. Mookie Betts has had a rough season, though he's been a little bit better here in the last few weeks, as you also have Teoscar Hernandez, Andy Paz, up to 21 home runs apiece. For Paz, he's been able to hit 275. Michael Conforto's just had a miserable season, but so Will Smith, move the line, giving you above a 400 on base. And for Nestor Cortez, he actually looked relatively solid in his minor league rehab starts with the Milwaukee Brewers, but has been pretty questionable with the San Diego Padres thus far. Has only made a few starts. This is going to be start number 4 for him, but and in 15 innings, he's given up 7 runs, including 4 home runs. He's been posting up overall for the season a 5.87 ERA with a 8.51 fielding independent, because he's given up 3.5 home runs per 9 innings. That dates back to when he had that start against the New York Yankees, but certainly giving up 4 runs in his last start against the San Francisco Giants, not necessarily encouraging, and I do think that the Dodgers going to do a nice job getting to him here, so I'm going to be in on that Dodgers money line. I'm willing to go up to about a minus 153, and did so by telling it at 8.4, so here at the 8, I'm in on the over. 963, 964 on the card. The New York Yankees are going to be playing against the Boston Red Sox. Garrett Crochet is on the bump for the Red Sox. Will Warren goes for the Yankees. The Yankees are an underdog of between plus 110 to a plus 115, between minus 127 to a minus 135. That number on Boston at 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. And with Boston, I did set them at a minus 133. So want to go up to a minus 132 on that money line. I do believe that Will Warren is doing for a bit of positivity. I recognize that for Will Warren, he does have a pretty high ERA, but he's not really giving up a lot of home runs. He's got a 4.25 ERA, but a fielding independent that's closer to 3.64 with 1 home run, 10.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. The walks have been an issue, darn near 4 walks per 9 innings, but overall, it does feel like he's starting to put it together as a pitcher, as he has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts. And then on the other end, you've got a guy in Garrett Crochet who's had one of the best seasons in all of baseball, 2.43 ERA with 11.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, 2.59 field independent. Did have that 5 spot that he gave up on the road against the Houston Astros, but past that, this guy's been rocking and rolling, 2 runs or fewer allowed in 4 of his last 5 starts. Now, he does have to go up against a New York Yankees team that, you look at their normal starting lineup, and pretty much all but one guy is giving you at least 17 home runs right now, and that'd be Paul Goldschmidt, so that's been pretty rock solid for them. You've had Yason Dominguez also be a guy that sometimes starts. He's hitting about a 340 with regards to on base, not necessarily a ton of power, and obviously Aaron Judge has been judge, jury, and executioner, 444 on base, 40 home runs, but it's not just him. You've got Cody Bellinger, Chas Chisholm, and Trent Grisham, all between 22 and 24 home runs. All these guys have been pretty solid in terms of being able to move line, at least a 320 on base out of all of these guys. Bellinger's hitting about a 275. Ben Rice, he's been a little bit up and down this year, but he's up to 20 bombs. He's getting on base as well. And for the Red Sox, it is an issue that Wyler Abreu, leader in home runs, is currently out of the lineup, but that said, you've got Dixon Garcia, hopefully I said that correct, the password. He's going to be making his MLB debut here in this series, so that's going to be able to give this team a little bit of a spark. You've got a lot of guys hanging in that neighborhood about a 250 to a 262, Jaron Durant, Adon Rafaela, Trevor Story, all there, and Story's up to 19 home runs. He's been really good here in the back half of the season. You've got Alex Bregman, who's currently giving you over at 375 on base. He's done a good job with his power, and for the Red Sox, this team clearly has a leg up with regards to the bullpen. Now they've got Walker Buehler actually in the bullpen, so I do find that to be very interesting. But you've had likes of Garrett Whitlock, Justin Wilson, Brendan Bernardino, Steven Matz, all being able to give you a sub 3.35 ERA. Aroldis Chapman has been one of the best closers in all baseball. Sub 1.50 ERA with about 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. And for the New York Yankees, it's been a little bit of an adventure in this bullpen. You do have Luke Weaver starting to improve. David Bednar, Tim Hill have been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. Camilo Udvaldson's getting to New York, though, has been an issue. Devin Williams rocking an over 5 ERA this season has been not great as well. So to think that in the end, the Red Sox do find a way to get the job done. But I think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game, so I tell it at 8.2. So here at the 8.5, I like the under, and the Red Sox up to a minus 132 on that money line. 965, 966 on the card. The Detroit Tigers play host to Kansas City Royals. Michael Wacha, and if he has a rough start, it's the dying Pac-Man voice. Michael Wacha, Waka, 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 goes for the Royals, and Chris Paddock is on the bump for Detroit. Detroit is a minus 120 to a minus 126 favorite. Between plus 104 to a plus 112 is that number on the Royals. 8.5 is the total. Overs between minus 110 to a minus 120. The unders between even a minus 110. And for Paddock and the Tigers, I did set their money line price at a minus 134. For Chris Paddock, he's not been necessarily blowing a lot of guys away with his swing and miss stuff, and really neither of these guys are. Michael Wacha overall for the season, about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Same goes for Paddock. Paddock has been allowing a little bit more of the deep ball, though. Only about 2.1 walks per 9 innings, but is giving up 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. Between his time with the Tigers and the Minnesota Twins, 5.10 ERA with a 4.70. Fielding opponent does enter in, having given up 13 runs in his last 3 starts, but he does face off against the Kansas City Royals team that they've been a little bit better ever since the All-Star break in terms of their run production, but for the season, they're still in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of their runs per game. And even take a look post All-Star break. For the Royals, it has been significantly better. They've actually been a top 10 team in terms of that run production, with having Vinny Pasquantino up to 24 home runs. He's hitting above a 260, and for Salvador Perez, 22 bombs. That's been pretty rock solid as well, but you still do have to have your question marks with this Royals lineup, mainly because you don't have a lot of boppers outside those two guys. You've had Mike Yastrzemski actually provide 3 leadoff home runs in his first 18 games with the Royals, so that's been solid, but he's hitting at 230 overall for the season. John Rave has been a young guy that's not giving you anything at about a 205. Jonathan India, you just expect a little bit more than him hitting at 236 with 8 home runs, albeit he does get on base. And obviously, Bobby Witt Jr. has been solid in terms of a lot of different respects. Over 30 stolen bases, 18 home runs, 350 on base. But it has been a lineup that has been rather pedestrian all season long. And for the Detroit Tigers, you just have good balance with this lineup, as pretty much all but 2 guys in the lineup yesterday were hitting above a 259, as you had Spencer Torkelson still give you about a 330 on base. He hits just a 241, but he's up to 26 home runs. When Trey Sweeney's in the lineup, he's the other guy that hits below a 259. But past that, you've got a whole bunch of guys hitting in that neighborhood about a 259 to 269, including Kerry Carpenter, 22 bombs, hitting about a 264. Riley Green is hitting a 263 with 29 home runs, so really good balance overall. Javi Baez, Dylan Dingler, these guys have done a great job in terms of moving line. The big issue for the Tigers, though, has been the bullpen. They have been in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen areas since the beginning of the month of July. They pick up Paul Sewald, who he's not going to give you anything whatsoever because he's currently on the injured list. You've had Tommy Canley, Kyle Finnegan, Rafael Montero all have an ERA above a 3.35 for the season. You've had good innings out of the likes of a Will Vest, along with the long guy that can sometimes serve as an opener in Brant Herter. These guys have been pretty solid, but other than that, it's been a little bit up and down there. And then on the other end, it's been a pretty good run of things with regards to bullpen for the Kansas City Royals, with having Lucas Hurst, Carlos Estevez, both give you a sub-3 ERA. They do have Hunter Harvey back on the injured list, so John Schreiber's about a 320 with regards to his ERA, and getting Daniel Lynch off the injured list does help them as well. But I do think that for Michael Wacha, even though he has been a very rock-solid starter this far this season, he's getting, like I said, only about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but posting up 3.34 ERA because he keeps the ball in the yard, 0.75 home runs per 9 innings. He's giving up fewer than 2.5 walks per 9 innings. He might be doing for a little bit of regression. He's only gotten 3 strikeouts in his last 3 starts, and I do think that the Tigers get to him just a little bit here. So I did set my total at 8.4. Right now, seeing that 8.5, I'm in on the under. And for the Tigers, I'm literally up to a minus 133 on that money line. 967, 968 on the card. The Cleveland Guardians are on the road against the Rocker, Texas Rangers. Jack Leiter goes for the Rangers, and Logan Allen is on the bump for the Guardians. Guardians between plus 104 to plus 113 underdogs. Minus 120 to minus 126 is the number on Texas. 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. I set the Rangers at a minus 136, so I'm going to be willing to lay the money line. Both of these starters in this game just give up a few too many walks for my liking. For Logan Allen, he's done a much better job than he did a season ago. Last year, he was giving up about 2 home runs per 9 innings. That's down to 1 home run per 9 innings, but last year he gave up 3.8 walks per 9 innings with 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. This year, 7.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, 3.7 walks allowed per 9 innings. So you need a little bit of improvement there. Good news is he has been able to do a good job of holding down the fort. 2 earned runs or fewer allowed in each of his last 4 starts, albeit he's been the victim of a few unearned runs in those starts, but overall he's been able to do his job. And for Jack Leiter for the season, 4.06 ERA compared to about a 4.62 fielding dependent, mainly because of those 4.7 walks per 9 innings. Solid but not great swing and miss stuff, about 8.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he has given up 300 runs or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts. What I do love about Jack Leiter, though, is that he's backed up by a bullpen that is in the top 8 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. As for the Texas Rangers, you have had Robert Garcia go down the toilet bowl a little bit. He's posting up above a 3.5 ERA, but have so many guys like Danny Kalum, Sean Armstrong, Hobie Milner, Phil Matone, who overall for the season have been able to give you sub 3.45 ERA. Recognize that Matone has had a few issues with the Texas Rangers recently, but all in all, these guys have been solid. Now, with Texas, they are dealing with a few injuries. Adolis Garcia has the injured list. Evan Carter has been dealing with a little bit of an injury, and Marcus Semien is now dealing with a little bit of an ailment as well. He was out of the lineup yesterday, so you do want to be mindful of that. So you're going to be getting a little bit more of a B team for the team, but the pickup of Rowdy Tellez has actually been paying off in droves. In a small sample size, 23 games with the Texas Rangers, he's actually been able to hit about a 275, so that's been helping them out since the beginning of the month of July. Kyle Higashioka's hitting above a 325. Wyatt Langford, Corey Seager, these have been your main 2 matchers. Seager over at 360 on base, 18 plus home runs. Wyatt Langford is up to 18 home runs, so these guys have been able to give you something. And for Jock Peterson, it's been a very bad, no good, terrible season for him, but since coming off the injury list, he's been a little bit better, hitting above a 200, so yay verily there. And on the other end, you've got a Cleveland Guardians lineup that is just so top heavy right now. As for the Cleveland Guardians, you've got Jose Ramirez over 24 home runs, 360 plus on base. Stephen Kwan is hitting right around about a 275. And Kyle Manzardo has stepped up, 21 home runs, above a 325 on base. But then just have so many guys that are not developing for the team, likes of Carlos Santana, Gabriel Urias, Anel Martinez, Brian Rocchio, hitting between about a 225 to 235. And then you've got a nice summit plummet with the other ancillary pieces that you put at the bottom half of the lineup, likes of Bo Naylor, David Fry, Will Wilson, Austin Edge's backup catcher, which you don't utilize very often, Nolan Jones, all hitting a 215 or lower. Now for the Cleveland Guardians, since the beginning of the month of June, this has been a top 7 team with regards to bullpen ERA. They have had Emmanuel Clase being out, but even with him out, you've got Cade Smith, Eric Zabrowski, Nick Enright, all being able to supply a sub-3 ERA. Kobe Allard has been a very effective long guy along Jacob Junis, both give you a sub-325 ERA. It's been an adventurous season for Hunter Gaddis, but he's pitching a little bit better right now as well, so I do think that this is going to be a relatively low-scoring game. Made my total at an 8.2, so I'm in on that 8.5 under, and with the Rangers willing to lay up to a minus 137 on that money line. 969, 970 on the card. It is the Houston Astros on the road against the Baltimore Orioles, as Dean Kramer goes for Baltimore. Christian Javier is on the bump for Houston, and Houston does find themselves between a plus 104 to a plus 110 underdog. Minus 122, minus 128 is that number on Baltimore. 9 is the total. The over is minus 115. Under is minus 105. I did set my total at an 8.9. At the 9, I'm in on the under. I recognize that it's a small sample size for Christian Javier, but hasn't been bad. He's given up 3 runs over the course of his 8 innings. I expect him to probably go about 4 to 5 innings, and if he can just hold down the fort, that's actually going to be very good for this team, because for the Houston Astros, even with Josh Hader being out of the fold, this is a bunch that is in the top 10 in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Steven Oker, Bennett Sosa, all these guys give you a sub-325 ERA. Recognize that Sean Dubin has went straight down the toilet bowl for this bullpen, but overall, these guys have been able to do a pretty solid job. Caleb Bort has had some issues as well, but for Houston, I do think that they're going to be able to get online with their bats. Jose Altuve has been able to about a 275 with 22 home runs. Yannier Diaz, Christian Walker, not giving you a lot of on base. Both of these guys below a 305 on base, but they combined 35 home runs out of these 2 guys. Jeremy Pena is hitting above a 300. Jake Myers is hitting above a 300. So you've got some relatively good consistency across the lineup, and this is always one of the best teams in all baseball in terms of not striking out. And for Baltimore. They've really had some demonstrative home and road splits if you take a look at their offense. For the Baltimore Orioles, they are right there at the bottom of the American League in terms of runs per game away from home, compared to about 4.9 runs per game when they have been at home. For Baltimore, they've had Adley Rutschman come off the injury list, but the guy that has really been able to take the team by storm has been their new catcher that they called up about a week or so ago. Apparently, they're going to give him like some $50+ million deal, so that's been really interesting to say the least with him, as Sam Basallo has been very solid for this team, and they're expecting good things from him moving forward. Jordan Westburg landing on the injury list is a big issue for this team, as he has been able to hit about a 275 or so with 15 home runs at a little bit of sample size. You've got Jackson Allday, Gunnar Anderson, a pair of guys who will be able to give you about 15 home runs apiece. And for Gunnar Anderson, he's been one of the best in terms of being able to move line, hitting about a 275. Dylan Beavers is a guy that is a young gun that has come up to the big league level. He's not hitting for a ton of power, but he's moving line, and that's big because now you've got Tyler O'Neill on the injury list. When Dylan Carlson has been out there, he's been a little bit miserable. And for the Orioles, the big issue that you do have with this team is the bullpen. They are currently in the bottom 7 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. Felix Bautista being on the injury list is less than savory. Keith Aiken and Diedrich Enns have actually been very solid in this bullpen, and Cade Stout has been able to give you a few solid innings, but Ynier Cano, Corbin Martin, Grant Wolfram, a lot of guys posting up above a 4.50 ERA. And when it comes to our good friend and Mr. Dean Kremer, he's actually been very solid at home. 3.97 ERA, but the fielding dependent is a little bit lower than that overall for the season. But you take a look at what he's been able to do at home thus far this season. That ERA shrinks all the way down to 2.67. At home, he's still giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, very similar to what he does on the road. But he's really been able to just limit the damage in general when he's been at home. So it's an interesting circumstance here with the Orioles. I did set them at a plus 112 on the money line. I just believe in the Astros a little bit more, and I do think that the ailments are going to hurt this Orioles team. So at the 9, I'm in on the under, and for the Astros, willing to lay up to a minus 111 on that money line. 971, 972 on the betting board. It is the Minnesota Twins, and at the road they're facing off against the Chicago White Sox. We do know that Davis Martin is going to be on the bump for the Southsiders. Meanwhile, it is all to be determined who's going to be on the bump for Minnesota, so this is a game that is presently off the board. Right now, CBS Sports is projecting that it's probably going to be Mick Abel who gets a start here. They think that it might be Taj Bradley as well, because Taj Bradley was actually picked up recently by this Minnesota Twins team as well. As of right now, I'm going with Mick Abel, and if it were to be Taj Bradley, probably a 10-cent upgrade from him, but with it being Abel against Davis Martin, I did set the Minnesota Twins on the money line at a minus 114, so I'd be willing to go up to a minus 113 there, a plus 115 or higher, looking at the White Sox, and then set a total to where an 8.5 or less in on the over 9 or higher to the under. That'll stay consistent if you do get Taj Bradley out there on the bump as well. For Abel, you got a little bit of a cup of coffee at the big league level with the Philadelphia Phillies, posted up a 5.04 ERA, really needs to cut down on the deep ball, 2.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and that's been the bugaboo for Taj Bradley if you get him as well. Was a little bit better this year with the Tampa Bay Rays, but certainly a little bit of interest with that regard. And Abel in his 3 starts at the minor league level for Minnesota, 1.76 ERA. Would not be surprised if you pair these guys up with someone like a Travis Adams, who's been a little bit of a long guy for the Minnesota Twins. There's probably going to be a lot of mixing and matching with this Twins bullpen, which does rank in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. So there's probably going to be a lot of young guns that are going to be going in this game for the Minnesota Twins. You've had a lot of guys in this bullpen be less than savory. Cole Sands, Cody Funderburg, Justin Topa, Brooks Kriske. These are pretty much all guys that are posting up an ERA above a 4, so you don't have a lot there. Erasmo Ramirez is a guy that's able to give you multiple innings for the Twins. This is a little bit of a gutted lineup. Now they have trotted out their James Outman, who he had some moments with the LA Dodgers, but overall for the season, hanging below the Mendoza line of 200. They're looking for a spark out of him. Byron Buxton has been the main catalyst for this lineup, hitting a 270 with 25 home runs. He's been great. You do have a pair of guys in Cody Clemens along with Matt Wallner, who have been able to do a nice job cranking out the deep ball, 13 plus home runs apiece. Both of these guys hitting below a 225 though. Trevor Larnach has been able to give you 16 home runs. He's been able to move the line with about a 320 on base, so that's been relatively solid. And Ryan Jeffers has done a nice job in terms of finding way on base as well. But when you take a look on the flip side, you do have yourself a White Sox team that continues to be in the bottom 10 in terms of runs per game. Had a really good series though against the Atlanta Braves, and Lennon Sosa has been the main guy for the team as he's been able to hit about a 270 with 17 home runs. The catcher spot has actually been really good for this team. You've got Edgar Quiero and Kyle Teal both hitting in that neighborhood about a 270, so these guys have been solid. Mike Tauchman has been able to give you about a 360 on base, but then just have a lot of guys in general general that aren't moving the line and aren't getting on base for this team. The likes of a Miguel Vargas, Luis Robert, Brooks Baldwin, Michael A. Taylor, Joshua Rojas, Josh Palacios. There have been just a lot of guys for this team that have been hitting at 231 or lower. I will say for Vargas, along with Luis Robert and Andrew Benintendi, between 13 and 15 home runs this season. And Colson Montgomery, in a small sample size, has been able to give you 10 home runs at 135 at-bats. He's also hitting at 215, so that's a bit of an issue for the White Sox. This has been about a league average team in terms of their bullpen ERA. Dan Altavilla hitting the injured list has been rough, but Mike Vasil, Tyler Gilbert, pair of long guys have been able to give you sub 350 ERA. Steven Wilson has been solid as well. Now Grant Taylor, Jordan Leisure, Brandon Eisert, these guys have had their issues posting up an ERA above a 4, so it's a very interesting circumstance. I do think that the Twins have a little bit more firepower here, thinking that it's going to be able against Davis Martin, and Martin is a guy that pitches to a lot of contact. He does a nice job in terms of not hurting himself, but right now his strikeouts per 9 rate for the season, registering that at about a 6.5, so that's a little bit of an issue. He gives up about 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, but fewer than 3 walks per 9 innings, so to go along with that ERA of a 3.94 fielding dependent, that's just a little bit north of a 4, and when Davis Martin has been at home this year, that does go down to a 3.27 ERA. I did set the matchup of Abel versus Martin at a minus 114 for the Twins on the money line. If it's Taj Bradley, probably an upgrade of 10 cents for the Twins. Either way, Bradley or Abel, 8.5 or less to the over, 9 or higher to the under, and that means that if you get Abel versus Martin plus 115 or higher, we'll be looking at the White Sox. 973, 974 on the card. The Athletics are on the road. They're facing off against the Seattle Mariners. We do know that it's going to be one Mr. Jeffrey Springs on the bump for the Athletics. Right now, it's a little to be determined for Seattle, so this game is off the board. Now, for Seattle, it should be George Kirby getting the start here. I'd be very surprised if not. Right now, FanDuel has an initial opener with a minus 184 on the Seattle Mariners, plus 154 on the Athletics, and if you're looking to lay the run line of the Mariners, that's plus 112. Total is 8, over is minus 120. The under is even, and if we do indeed get this matchup, I set the Seattle Mariners at a minus 108 on the run line, so I would be willing to lay it with George Kirby and company. For Jeffrey Springs, he's been pretty solid in terms of not giving up a lot of the deep ball for the Athletics. The thing with Springs is that he just has been way down with his swing and miss stuff. Overall for the season, Jeffrey Springs is experiencing a career low as a starter, 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has been giving up about 1.5 bombs per 9 innings, 424 ERA, 472 fielding independent. Things have just really fallen out for him in the last 2 starts. He went and combined in 8 innings, gave up 9 runs in his last 2 starts, and much like a lot of these pitchers out there in Sacramento, has been better on the road rather than at home. For Jeffrey Springs, when he has been on the road, he's posting up closer to a 380 ERA on the road, about 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings. At home, that goes up to about 1.7 home runs per 9 innings. So you've had your issues there for the Athletics. The big issues that you've had have been with this bullpen. They are currently in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. They've had a few guys step up, be able to give you some good innings. Michael Kelly, along with Sean Newcomb, have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA, and then you've also had Elvis Alvarado be able to step up in a big way, but likes of Tyler Ferguson, the long guy, Osvaldo Bido, Justin Sterner, throw in there Hogan Harris, all these guys posting up at least a 370 ERA has been less than savory. And then for the Athletics, this has been a little bit of top-heavy lineup, but you do have a quartet of guys who have been able to do a nice job hitting for at least 23 home runs, and all 4 of these guys hitting at least a 268. Shea Langeliers, Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom, Nick Kurtz. Kurtz is up to a 400 on base with his 26 home runs, by the way, and Shea Langeliers has never hit for average. He and Brent Rooker right around about a 268 apiece, so that's been rock solid. Now, JJ Bleday, he's been able to give you 10 home runs, but he's been banged up, and he's been hitting like a 215 this far this season, so you need a little bit more there. Luis Rios, he does an okay job of moving line, and now you've got Jacob Wilson back. He spent a lot of time on the injured list. He's been hitting above a 300, so that's been pretty rock solid. Lawrence Butler has been a little bit up and down as well. And then for the Seattle Mariners, you've got a lot of power with this lineup. Sometimes the on base can be a bit hit or miss, but you still do have a guy in Julio Rodriguez who's been able to do a nice job moving the line. Randy Rosarena, by the way, up to about a 345 on base, 25 plus home runs out of him. Julio Rodriguez, 262, 25 home runs. JP Crawford, about a 355 on base, which is where you find Cal Raleigh as well. And Big Dumper, 47 home runs. Doesn't really get a lot of hits outside of home runs, but he does a nice job in terms of drawing some walks. And Eugenio Suarez has not been hitting for a lot of average ever since joining the Seattle Mariners. So this is much like what happened when he was with the Seattle Mariners a few seasons ago, hitting just a 221 on base since joining Seattle, 3 home runs in his first 19 games there. So you're going to need a bit more there. But I said this is a Seattle Mariners bullpen that is in the top 12 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. And you've got really good top end talent with the likes of Gabe Spire, Edward Bizardo, Matt Brash, Andres Munoz. All give you a sub 275 ERA. And for George Kirby, it's been a little bit of an up and down season, but for George Kirby, he's always been throughout his career at his best when he has been at home. Thus far this season, 338 home ERA, 508 ERA on the road. He's given up only about 0.8 home runs per 9 innings when he's at home, and he has been able to up that swing and miss stuff this season as well. Overall, he's been able to give you in the neighborhood of about 9.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. The walks are up a little bit to about 2.3 walks per 9 innings, but still relatively good command, and a lot of that came back to the first few starts. So at a minus 108 or better, I'm going to be looking at the Mariners on the run line, and did make my total of 7.6. I do think that Kirby and the bullpen can hold down the A's, so if we do get that 8, I'm going to be in on the under. 975, 976 on the card. The Blue Jays are on the road facing off against the Marlins as Jansen Junk hopes to not live up to his name for Miami, and Jose Barrios is on the bump for the Toronto Blue Jays. Most places have this one off the board very strangely, so that is interesting, but I'm right now seeing an initial FanDuel opener of the Blue Jays at a minus 132, plus 112 on the Marlins, and a total of 8. Over is minus 115, under is minus 105. If we can get down to a minus 129, I'm going to be more delayed with the Blue Jays, and typically FanDuel has a little bit of a higher straddle than most of these Vegas books, so I do think that when it's all said and done, should be able to get that minus 128 or better that I desire on the Blue Jays money line for Jose Barrios. Typically throughout his career, he's actually been a better pitcher when he has been at home rather than on the road, as a matter of fact, by darn near a point, but in this season, he's actually been a better road pitcher. 348 road ERA, 450 home ERA. When Barrios has been on the road, he has been giving up closer to about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, but that should be mitigated by the fact that he's pitching out there in Miami, where it is about as pitcher-friendly as it gets, and for Miami, having Kyle Sowers on the injured list is just a big, brutal blow for this team. 25 home runs, 370 on base. He's been the main form of power for the team, as you've only got one other guy on the roster with above 11 home runs this season. Augustin Ramirez, he's up to 18 home runs, but is hitting just at 235. Now, you have plenty of guys that are able to move the line, fight away on base. Liam X has been able to give you about a 355 on base. In a small sample size, Alberto Hernandez, 345 on base, and Xavier Edwards, leadoff man, 23 stolen bases, 302 batting average. He has been very rock solid, but for the Miami Marlins, they're going to be very much relying upon their pitching in this one, as for the Marlins, at the beginning of the month of June, top 8 team in terms of their bullpen ERA, as a lot of guys have stepped up in a big way for the team. Tyler Phillips, Cade Gibson, Lake Bakar, Ronnie Enriquez, Anthony Bender, all these guys have been able to give you a sub 330 ERA. And for Jansen Junk, he does a really good job in terms of not hurting himself. Now, the big thing for Jansen Junk is that he's just not really getting a lot of swings and misses. He's got a 404 ERA compared to a 306 fielding independent, because he gets about 6.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, 0.7 home runs allowed per 9, only about 1 walk allowed per 9. So he's done a nice job in terms of not self-inflicting wounds, but does need to get a little bit more deception, and goes up against a Blue Jays team that has been a top 10 unit in the big leagues in terms of run production, and now you've got some balance power with the team, especially with Dalton Varsho. Give you 13 home runs in his first 140 at-bats of the season. You've been able to have Alejandro Kirk, along with George Springer, Bo Bichette, Vlager Jr., all be able to hit at least a 285 for this unit. Springer is up to about a 380 on base with 21 home runs. Now, Vlager Jr., day-to-day, he might not be in the lineup here on Saturday. That's been a little bit of an issue. He was held out yesterday, but Alejandro Kirk, he's been able to do a nice job in terms of moving the line. Ernie Clemente is hitting about a 280 as well. Nathaniel Lukes, 10 home runs at about 185 at-bats. He's hitting a 250 as well. He's been pretty rock solid, and this is a Blue Jays unit that is right around about league average in terms of their bullpen ERA. You've had the Killer Bees, Brandon Little, along with Braden Fisher and Yurio Rodriguez, all post up a sub 335 ERA. Louis Varland has been a little bit rough since coming out over to Toronto, but overall for the season, about a 250 ERA. It has been a not so great season for Jeff Hoffman, over a 4 ERA. You've had a few guys like Chad Green really not pan out for the team. It's Anthony Dominguez. You never know what to expect there, but I do think that they hold down a little bit of a banged up Marlins team, so did some I told 7.9 and an 8. I'm in on the under. And for the Blue Jays, we'll delay up to a minus 128 on the money line. 977, 978 was supposed to be Rays versus Cardinals. I think that they just moved this game because they are not playing on this day, so we're wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. The Cubs are on the road against the LA Angels. Boy, did they make my job fun, because we do know that for the Chicago Cubs, we are going to be getting Cade Horton. Right now for the Angels, it is old to be determined, so this is a game that is presently off the board. If you're looking at a lot of the early projections, this was supposed to be Jose Soriano, and if it were to be Jose Soriano going up against Cade Horton, I did set the Cubs at a minus 132 on the money line. Would have been willing to go up to a minus 131 there, plus 133 or higher. Would have been in on the Halos, and then with regards to total, main line an 8.6, so in half or less, in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. If it is not going to be Jose Soriano, you get a bullpen game, and that's probably about a 40-cent downgrade, because this is an LA Angels bullpen that is just absolutely awful. You'd probably think that Carson Fulmer, in some form or capacity, would be seeing quite a few bulk innings, as he is relatively stretched out, and that's going to be big, because for the LA LA Angels right now, you're dealing with Kenley Jansen, who's been legitimately one of your best relievers. He and Brock Burke are pretty much the lone two guys in this bullpen, supplying a sub-375 ERA. He's right now dealing with an ailment. Ryan Zephyrian, Reed Detmers, a whole bunch of other guys have been posting up an ERA above a 450. Jose Fermin has been awful, so that's been an issue. And for Jose Soriano, the reason why this is in a little bit of question is because he is on the paternity list. Congratulations to him. And when Jose Soriano has pitched, he's actually been a whole heck of a lot better when he has been on the road rather than at home. 5.11 home ERA, 2.89 ERA on the road, which is why you don't have as big of a drop if you do get a bullpen game in this one. Like if you do get a bullpen game, I probably would be going to a 9 or less to the over, a 9.5 or higher to the under. That's a little bit TBD though. And for Cade Horton, I do think that there's a little bit of regression to and from. Cade Horton has been really hearing a who as to who's able to shut you down because he has given up a grand total of 2 runs over the course of his last 6 starts. He's not really getting a lot of swings and misses though. He's overall for the season giving up 0.8 home runs, 2.9 walks per 9 innings with 7.2 strikeouts per 9. 3.08 ERA, a 3.87 fielding pennant. Now with Horton, he has been a whole heck of a lot better when he has been at home rather than on the road. .71 home ERA, 4.69 ERA on the road, despite the fact that his home runs per 9 rate really does not waver too much whether he is at home or if he's on the road. And for the Chicago Cubs, this has been a team that overall for the season has been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, has been a little bit more shaky here over the last month and a half or so, but still plenty of guys are supplying you with a sub 3.25 ERA. Brad Keller, Taylor Rogers, Daniel Palencia, all these guys are actually below a 2.50 ERA. They let go of Chris Flexen, even though he was able to give them some relatively solid innings. They're currently without Ryan Presley. That's not necessarily a bad thing for the team. And for the Chicago Cubs, this continues to be a top 4 unit in terms of run production. Even though Seiya Suzuki, Pete Crow Armstrong, going into Friday, they had been stuck on 27 home runs for darn near a week and a half plus both of them. You've got Michael Busch, who's been able to give you a 340 on base, 24 home runs. Carson Kelly needs to step up with Miguel Amaya on the injured list, but he's been able to give you a 360 on base with 13 home runs and less than 300 bats this season. Kyle Tucker, 18 bombs. He has been able to do a rock solid job. And then for the LA Angels, this is very much an all or nothing team. A top 5 unit in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, but a bottom 7 team in terms of their on base percentage. You've got Taylor Ward up to about a 320 on base, 29 home runs. He's been great. Joe Adell has been great with the power of 28 home runs, but 232 average, 297 on base. That's been a bit inconsistent. Zach Neto has been able to hit for about a 270 with 21 home runs. Mike Trout, 20 home runs, but he's only getting a 241. I'll be at 373 on base. Ori Soler has been banged up. He's had a forgettable season. Luis Renifo has been a little bit better, but 297 on base with 7 home runs. You just expect a little bit more there. And then Nolan Chunel, about a 360 on base. So if you do get Horton going up against Jose Soriano, minus 131 or better, looking at the Cubs, plus 133 or better, looking at the Angels, and then in after Leslie over 9 or higher to the under. If it's not Jose Soriano, probably staring at the Cubs being closer to like a minus 165, minus 170 or so, and then a 9 or less to the over, a 9.5 or higher to the under based on the situation. And that'll wrap things up for the Saturday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Big thanks to Dylan Rockford, who does such great work with the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and coming at you guys every single day on this podcast throughout the regular season into the postseason. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.